What's up, TIW Mafia? JP here with Big Joe. And I mean, we have, I guess, a special guest. We were supposed to have from Penn and Teller's Fool Us. We were supposed to have the Shocker.
So Shocker's going to be here. I'm telling you guys, he's going to be here.
But we have his manager, Greg.
I'm Greg. How you guys doing? I am Greg. I'm a magician here in Las Vegas. I've been working with the Shocker for years. These guys changed the time on him like 3 times. He had 4 different dates that he was going on. He's in the hot tub right now. Hopefully we can get him here before the end of the interview, but I should be able to answer any questions until we get him here that might interest you.
Part of that was my fault. We were trying to get you on last week. I wanted to be a part of the interview though, and I was going to be in. I was in Daytona for a little metal concert for.
And I was taking part in Veterans Day festivities. And when I say festivities, what I mean was going to all the different restaurants that have the discounts and the free meals for veterans. Yep. That was my take.
So you just went around, got all the free meals and everything, and
yeah, who can blame a guy?
I tried to do that. The hair always stopped me. They never believed I was in the Army. I was like, I was just there a week ago, and for whatever reason.
Oh, you were in the Army.
Yeah. No, I never. My dad was in the Air Force. Well, I have nothing but respect for people in the military. But yeah, the hair requirement just killed me. I couldn't do it.
Now
thank you for your magic service.
you brought Shocker onto Penn and Teller's Fool Us.
Yeah.
And you did, I assume you as the manager are the one who pulled off something that no one's ever done. And I have actually said needs to be done on, I've always said on like America's Got Talent. And that's have a wrestling match on one of these competition reality shows.
It's funny you mentioned that show. If only I was allowed to talk about it in the next 3 months or so. Let's just say your wish might come true sooner rather than later. But in the world of TV, a promise means just as much as it does when it's given. Right. So
okay, and I didn't know. If I had known that, I wouldn't have brought it up.
What's funny is this Fool Us thing had been going on for over a year too. Like we were supposed to tape not pre-pandemic, but right after the pandemic started, the whole idea. And you guys are wrestling fans.
Yeah.
You ever put a ring together?
Yes.
Yeah, way too many. Everybody's done everybody who really is a part of wrestling knows you've carried that ring, you've built that ring, you've done what needs to be done. That is not a quick process. And it only goes faster if you have more people.
Right.
But if you got 2 70-year-old magicians with a TV show who are paranoid about COVID, more people is not something they want.
Oh, no.
So
yes.
With COVID restrictions, we just couldn't get the logistics of getting the ring in the studio during that first one. But then when rapid testing came out and all the vaccine, blah, 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 things changed over the next season. So in the world of TV, there's TV things that are still ongoing that were supposed to happen 5 years ago that we're still negotiating if it's ever going to happen. But yeah, the AG team, we might have the logistics figured out this season, but
well, you got to be careful with that because Howie's quite a germaphobe.
Well, we're going to be far away from them if it happens. But I think the point is the point of it was though, I don't think you could bring a wrestling match onto Fool Us or AGT, like just a straight up wrestling match. Like you couldn't have John Cena versus The Rock because they have a home. They have WWE. You couldn't even have, Raven versus Tommy Dreamer on AGT because they have a home somewhere. So
it's a good match though.
But what was so different about this and something I've been a proponent for is I work with Sin Bodhi. You guys know, and now everybody we were talking about before, and when it comes on, me and Sin Bodhi, we work together a lot, and he'll tell you about these guys.
He's going to be on next week.
He's going to be on
Sin
next
will be on next week.
And I say this as comfortable in my masculinity as I possibly can be. I love that man. He gets wrestling. He gets it. And not just because Jake the Snake was his mentor, which is amazing in its own right. I mean, that's a pedigree anybody would hope to have. But when we worked on this, I watched that guy train because we'd rehearse after he would have his training sessions. and the lessons he was teaching that next generation about story, about selling, about you can't just, everything can't be a squash match because it's just so boring. You've got to have highs and lows. You got to have good guys that need that, like everything about wrestling he just exemplifies, in my opinion. So that was amazing. And in thinking about it that way, we used to do Freak Show Wrestling out here in Vegas, which was a crazy comedy wrestling show. And we would have Jesus versus Santa Claus over who wins Christmas. And then Satan would do a run in and beat both of them. We'd have the ghost of Gary Coleman versus the ghost of Whitney Houston. Like, it was irreverent, but the wrestling was still good. We'd get, hell, we had Cody Rhodes come to one of them after he got released from WWE and before anything else picked up. Cody Rhodes came to a Freak Show Wrestling. We had John Morrison at a Freak Show Wrestling because Sin knows everybody. And they have these fun matches with guys like Cereal Man, with a guy with a cereal box for a head. There was one that Sin went up against cool versions of him. So we had a mirror Sin Bodhi and a mirror of all the characters that were there, like the fake versions of them. So they had to fight their own people, like just crazy. And they were so much fun. And that's what you need for a show like Penn and Teller, Fool Us, AGT. Yeah. You got to bring the people. Wrestling fans will always love wrestling. We love wrestling because we get it. We need the mainstream to love wrestling. And they're not going to get it like we do. So how do we get them involved? And more violence and more storylines of, I can kick your ass. Well, no, I can kick your ass because you kicked my ass last time. That's not going to get the people back in. That's not why they love The Rock. That's not why they love Stone Cold. They love the entertainment.
Yeah.
That's what we really shop for. And I think we got it. I think if you haven't seen the video yet, by the way, go watch it like 150,000 more times. Because I really
it's awesome. It's completely awesome.
I think it's on.
I'll put a link in the chat, actually.
Shocker Chat, is that what it is? Or Shocker
Rants.
Shocker Rants, sorry.
Which is another basically, well, you guys know when you're doing any video, anything, you try different things. And I had this whole idea that Shocker, and I'm kind of doing it with, Shocker is doing it with this group called the Long Hairs, which is they were on Shark Tank. They make hair ties for guys. The best hair ties I've ever had in my life. And so they got a deal on Shark Tank with Mark Cuban. I ended up meeting him after the first time Shocker was on Fool Us because TV and all that. And so now I'm a brand representative and I host a YouTube channel for them called The Main Event, MANE, because hair.
Yes.
And imagine if The Daily Show and InfoWars had a baby and they only talked about hair conspiracies. So like the very first episode, it was about the Westminster Dog Show. And, the long-haired Afghan hound hasn't won in 40 years. Who is keeping this dog down? And like stuff like that. We went into the next one coming out, the Olympic runner who had the beautiful orange hair, who couldn't run because she got tested positive for pot, because pot is a performance-enhancing drug.
Yeah,
so tested the performance-enhancing abilities of pot. And it really just makes you want to eat Cheetos. I don't know why
anybody... Let's even a pizza eating contest.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes you want to sit down and eat.
So Shocker Rants was the original idea of that, is I was going to basically do like a Peter Griffin, what grinds Shocker's gears kind of thing. And then my first Penn and Teller video got 6 million views on that channel. So now I'm locked into that no matter what, because that's where all the people went.
Yeah, that's now I was on that channel today, and you had you have a video up there of Penn doing an interview on it looked like another podcast type of thing. And he was saying that they didn't quite figure out your trick, actually, or that they did, but it was a guess, and it was really questionable.
Yeah, when they guessed the Shocker's trick, and I've talked to Teller a handful of times. In fact, I'm going to the show tonight. That's the whole reason we were talking about the timing, because I got tickets to go see them tonight.
And dinner with mom.
The what?
Don't forget dinner with mom.
And dinner with mom. Yes. So that's the whole reason we're going to the show. Mom came out so we can go to dinner and Penn and Teller. But yeah, they admitted they did not see the magic happen. They took their best guess based on their experience of what must have happened. Yeah. And they were close enough to being right that it wasn't worth. Well, Shocker had a better ending anyway. Shocker wasn't planning on fooling them. Shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
No,
we're wrestling fans,
No.
right?
I
Yes.
was the
Okay,
I was
we're
the
wrestling-
kid in the audience when I went to the Magic Act that shouted, it's on the ground or it's still between your fingers. I was that kid. And I saw
So-
a couple of things that I didn't figure it out at all. But I know everything that happened before the match and after the match happened for a reason.
Oh yeah, everything, and that is what I truly believe. And Shocker might even talk about more about this when we finally get him in here.
if he
But
gets
I
in here.
truly believe wrestling needs another evolution if we're going to get the regular viewers in.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I think AEW is great. How they peeled the curtain away and kayfabe is gone, and now you're getting the real life drama behind it. That's great, and there's a market for that. But I think we need a market that swings so far the other way. Like one of the best wrestling matches on YouTube that still resonates to me was the guy dressed up as a cobra and the other guy dressed up as an Egyptian, and they hypnotized the other
Oh, yeah,
wrestlers
yeah.
to make, and it was funny as hell, and it got like 60 million, however many million
Yeah.
views.
They did that. That was a regular thing for them, but that definitely I know the exact match you're talking about.
But
They
it was
were a tag
fun.
team.
It was unabashedly fun. It's like, and the Japanese guy, when the guy grabs his junk and all of a sudden the junk starts doing the match. And when Kenny Omega had the wrestling match with the little girl,
Yes.
and made her look okay. This
Made
could
her
get
look like
Greg
a-
in trouble. This could get me in trouble. I'm gonna say a couple things. Everybody knows what's up with wrestling, and everybody knows what's up with magic. I didn't go to Harry Potter school. I'm not casting real spells. I'm doing bullshit with a pack of cards that looks cool. Wrestling, we know, and I think I'm very proud of what Shocker said on the show, where he said it was prearranged, but it's still very real. Just because you know the story is happening doesn't mean you're not an awesome storyteller. And we need to focus on the fact that wrestlers are storytellers. Because we're not trying to convince the public they fight in the back too, or they hate each other. Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Iron Sheik smoke pot together while driving to gigs. Like, we know that now. We're the next evolution of fans. So let's get that back. Give me freaking undead Undertaker who actually comes out of the grave to grab AJ Styles. I love that. Give me the boogeyman making the Ultimate Warrior's head ooze with blood. You got Alexa Bliss who can hypnotize somebody on the ladder and all they go is, oh no, and then it's over in 3 seconds. Somebody should have to pop Alexa Bliss to break that spell that she's casting before the other girl can get out of it. Like, we lean into the ridiculous in wrestling half-assed.
Alexa Bliss took over a role that somebody else was much better at than she was.
Yeah.
And I love Alexa
She
Bliss.
wasn't right for it either.
They need to amp up the entertainment side of it. They get the wrestling end of it down pat.
The wrestling
amp up the entertainment.
Wrestling is better. Move-wise, wrestling is better. I mean, I grew up in the days of 10-minute arm bars. Like, holy shit, wrestling's so much better now.
You fear the abdominal stretch.
Exactly. Yeah. But now we need to do what we did with moves, because we used to do those moves to sell how real wrestling was. But now, because everybody knows what's up and everything, we can have these much more beautiful moves, beautiful athleticism with shitty storylines, because they just can't put that same effort to the storyline too. If you're going to do something ridiculous, turn it up to make it Spinal Tap, turn it up to 11. Yeah. Give these guys, give them weird make it the Infinity Gauntlet. I don't care. Just have your real guys and have your weirdos. But if you're going to do it, convince it.
Well, I think the last time
should never have lost a goddamn match for at least 2 years, in my opinion. If you're going to have somebody come out and be the next Kane Undertaker, and then you squash him every single match, you can't make a beast at that point.
Right.
Well, I think the last time for me that I remember seeing that type of entertainment value coming from WWE, I think it was back when they were WWF, when they first came out. I think it was a hardcore title when it was defended anywhere 24/7.
Yep.
And like, you're walking in a pizza shop and he showed them beating somebody up in the pizza shop and going, in the playground, he's walking with his kids in the mall, and that was entertaining.
Right.
Now,
and
then we take that. And so I've had a meeting recently. I don't want to go into any details because we're still literally at the having dinner meetings stage. But
Free dinner.
Yeah, exactly. But 3 of them so far. So I never complain as long as somebody's buying the dinner. But they came to me because they saw the Penn and Teller thing. They had worked with Sin in the past, and they have an idea of creating a theatrical wrestling show, which has as much in line with like Cirque du Soleil and Absinthe here in Vegas, which is a crazy variety show going on, as it does a good wrestling show. But then we could make the storyline like one of the pitch ideas is somebody sells their soul in the back to the devil to win the match, but he's actually selling his soul. So now later on in the storyline, the devil's got the contract and can make him do what he wants. And now he has to get like, let's just make these things, instead of Daniel Bryan not being able to be in the ring, his soul will go to hell forever if he loses this match. Like, I loved that in the Undertaker days. Let's
right.
Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping this can turn into someday.
Well, with that though, you can do, say, speaking of the Undertaker, you can have, if he was still wrestling and you're going to release Kurt Angle, he knows that. He knows this is his last match. Do a casket match and Kurt Angle never comes back.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect around those lines.
Something where you're going just so over the best example in WWE, and it was made for kids, but I watched all the way through it like 3 times. It was The Undertaker versus The New Day in the Netflix special, where they went to The Undertaker's haunted mansion to try to get his urn. And it was cheesy, but holy shit, are The New Day funny. For one, like those guys have comic chops. I would share a stage with any of them anytime. But 2, you had good versus evil. You had all the comedy you get. Undertaker got a hold of Big E first and then made Big E fight his friends. Imagine you take a wrestler like Big E, he's never going to fight Kofi Kingston unless they have some big blow up, unless the Undertaker's got his soul and makes him evil. Now we can have a dream match that doesn't have to be Kofi's a heel for the next 2 years. It can be they win the match, they beat the Undertaker, they get his soul back, everything's great again. Like, why not? Why not?
Freak Show Wrestling needs a TV deal.
Freak Show Wrestling, Shikara Wrestling, Hood Slam in San Francisco, all those guys that understand entertainment is just as important as the good. You can't do one without the other.
Yeah.
And I think Shocker did so well on Fool Us because the wrestling was real. Like, that was a body slam. That was a choke slam. That was a damn good atomic drop. I cannot believe the height they got on the atomic drop on that thing. Like,
and for me, like being both a Magic fan and a wrestling fan, watching that match, I didn't pay attention to anything but the match.
But that's because the magic and stuff was slipped into, like, it still had ridiculous, because when he's doing the turnbuckle stumps, after the third one, Sin lets go and Shocker keeps going a couple times. Well, that's fun.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I wasn't the whole time. I wasn't paying attention to the magic really. I got drawn into the wrestling, and
I hope that's what we were going for.
That's what I got drawn into. I wasn't paying attention.
Magic fans could get the comedy of the things that were happening, and the wrestling fans could get the entertainment of the match. So it's the only YouTube video I ever put out that 98% of the comments are positive on. So that's that. I mean, holy crap! You never want to read the comments on a video,
right?
Especially from wrestling fans. Wrestling fans can be a little bit brutal sometimes. Magic fans can too. But yeah, everybody. It seems like we came up with something great. I hope.
Now, the wrestling and the magic, we saw done once before.
Yep.
Mephisto.
I watched that match when we were writing and figuring stuff out. I watched that match probably a dozen times to figure out what was wrong with it. Because I'm going to be honest, I respect the hell out of the guy. I know the guy who actually taught him magic. It's a guy here in town who's caught Copperfield and stuff like that. But it's not good. It's not a good match. Right. Why wasn't it a good match? So I watched it over and over to figure out what was bad about it. Because some of the magic was fun.
But the whole thing was fun, but it wasn't wrestling.
It wasn't wrestling, and it wasn't him. That wasn't the right guy. He was a freaking Hulk of a man that never did a magic trick before in his life until they gave him the gimmick.
Okay.
Now you take somebody like, and I'm going to get his name wrong, but on my first video, there's an indie wrestler who's known for magic, and he did a magic trick backstage at WWE on one of his shots. It's somebody, Jarek 320. You guys in the chat will know I have nothing against the guy. I think he's great. I just don't remember his damn name. But Jarek something who brought magic into his indie promotion, and he got known for it because he loved magic. And that Fantasio didn't love magic. He was a wrestler. He was a big guy wrestler who was uncomfortable doing all of the wacky things that they made him do. So it's like, how do we make this feel fun and reasonable? And half of it was just Shocker loves wrestling. Shocker loves comedy. So it's already going to come out naturally that way. And Sin is such a versatile wrestler. You know, he can give you the comedy. He can give you the scary. So whatever you need from it. So it never would have happened without Sin either. I just flat out, I know a dozen wrestlers. If Sin was out, I don't think you would have seen it on TV this year. It really would have taken a long time if it wasn't him. And
his whole persona just goes right along with it.
Yeah.
Never breaks persona.
Yeah. It's
now, what's easier? So is Shaka's manager?
Yeah.
What's easier? Who's easier to deal with? Wrestling promoters or the, I don't know what you would call someone that puts on the magic shows?
So Greg does corporate magic. And I'll be very honest. Magic pays a lot better than wrestling does.
Oh, I'm sure.
But Greg doesn't send Shocker out on a lot of magic gigs. Most people for their corporate cocktail hour aren't expecting the Shock. Now, the Shocker's done some of those shows, but I do most of the work so Shocker can go off on TV and have fun. So there's a lot more magic to deal with. So I would say the magic world business-wise is more, but honestly, wrestling is so hard to get your foot in the door too. You can, but there's a lot more time that has to go into building something in wrestling than I think it does in magic.
And there's so many more feet in that door before you.
Exactly. Well, like in magic, I can go out there tomorrow and say, I'm a magician, get a gig, go do the gig. And whether I'm good or bad, it doesn't matter. But if I'm going to try to get into wrestling, I got to go to a promotion. I got to get 20 guys to know that I'm good. I can't just tell you I'm good. You take my word for it and you hire me. I fuck up in a wrestling ring. 20 guys are going to beat my ass in the back if I did something really stupid. So as far as easier to get into, absolutely magic.
All right.
Well, yeah, Penn and Teller kind of said that back when they were doing the when the masked wrestler was around. He was like, "Why? What's he afraid of if he takes the mask off? Are we going to make him disappear?"
Oh, that guy isn't. He lives in Vegas too. I met him a handful of times.
What's
hold
that?
on? I got somebody at the door. I will be right back.
That's all right, guys. We never know what's going to happen here at the Irish Whip.
I like it how people just get up and answer the door while they're in the middle of an interview. But whatever.
Well, I mean, if he's waiting for his mother to go to dinner,
that's true too. Yeah, I take back my little sarcastic statement.
It could be his mother.
Well, let's talk to his mother about how she feels about him.
I told you don't do interviews without me in the room. What the hell are you thinking? I'm sorry. I told you had to do this at this time. I don't care. If I'm doing the interview, I'm doing the damn interview. What the hell? How long has this thing been going on without me here?
Oh, Shocker. Welcome.
There you guys are.
Shocker, how are you
were talking to Greg about shit? Greg doesn't know shit. That guy does card tricks for a living. Come on. We're talking wrestling here.
All right.
We were talking to him about being the manager and what it's like to deal with promoters.
Women come in and he keeps the refrigerator stocked. As long as those two things happen, he can be my manager if he wants to call himself that.
First of all, congratulations. You had a great appearance, 2 great appearances really on Fool Us. So.
Oh, shucks. Making me blush. Can't tell, but it's all happening. No, I'm pretty proud of both of them, but yeah, that last one was fun. That last one is the reason you're talking to me. So
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Shocker grew up a little bit over the years, and the first one, the mind reading is fun, but if you're not taking bumps, you're not living life.
Now, what was it like being in front of Penn and Teller as a magician? I would imagine you're a little bit of the starstruck, no? Greg talked about that. I think Greg's still emailing Teller back and forth a little bit. But when a celebrity meets a celebrity,
when Shocker walks into a theater, I don't care that it says Penn and Teller on the marquee. That was Shocker's theater for 17 and a half minutes. That's how I look at it. So once I'm in action and going, that's great. When I got home later and watched it, I saw the smiles. I can't say I wasn't happy, because we all have our idols growing up, and we have our wrestling idols. I mean, Jesus, I grew up watching Kerry Von Erich versus the Missing Link with Percy Pringle as a manager back in the WCCW days. So I have my heroes, and magic-wise, I might watch a little bit of them growing up.
It's like if you can be the up-and-coming guy that gets squashed by Hulk Hogan, but you do a damn good job doing it, you're going to get the push. So the Shocker's getting a push.
If you can make it memorable.
Yes.
That's the whole thing.
Having a match on Fool Us was pretty memorable.
You know, it is the only Magic wrestling match in the era of sports entertainment, which means they dropped the F. We don't talk about Fantasio. He was in the F era. We don't talk about him anymore. I'm the first Magic wrestling match in sports entertainment.
That's
I know.
No.
But you didn't pull the rabbit out of your hat.
How much?
No, I don't pull it out of there. We don't talk about where I pull the rabbit out of, but that costs extra.
How much magic do you actually incorporate into your matches?
Shocker, I don't get in the ring a lot. This face is too pretty to get too many punches straight to it. So back during the Freak Show wrestling days, I was the host, announcer, joke maker. So I don't sully myself by getting involved in a lot of matches. I only get involved in the most important ones. And Sin Bodhi, I'm going to make that guy work for me one of these days. I will be the manager, or, we'll come up with something. I think we worked our problems out in the ring there.
I didn't tell you, Shocker, Sin's going to be on next week.
Oh, is he?
Yes.
I got to say, the guy hits hard. We're all wrestling fans here, and I don't care what you say. I had his handprint on my chest for 5 days after that taping. So call whatever you want, but when you take a chop and you want to make it sound good, you're going to remember it. And he knew how to do that. So.
Now, I could kind of tell you don't get in the ring a lot from watching you get beat up by Sin.
Not only that, did you hear me sucking air at the end of that? Holy shit, I need to get my cardio back up.
But it was something else. There was a spectacle behind it. And I think that's a big part of what wrestling's missing as well, is the whole, what's the spectacle? Where's the spectacle behind Adam Cole?
I agree. I think wrestling kind of in that, it was the 80s to 90s when we had so many things. Jesse Ventura announcing with Vince McMahon is probably the best announcing duo and I love JR and I love freaking Paulie in the ECW days, or not Paulie, but the dude from the ECW days. But yeah.
Only when Jesse wore the turban.
Oh yeah.
And for the record,
Jesse's the best Jesse.
Adam Cole is a great wrestler.
Oh yeah.
I don't believe when Adam Cole walks in a room, I don't believe he can kick my ass.
Well, it's like this now. For me, Adam Cole's got the belt now. In 3 weeks, he loses it. Now the kids are a fan of the new guy, and then the new guy. But me, as a wrestling fan, saw the Shocker on Penn and Teller, and holy shit, now I'm a fan of the Shocker, regardless of where he is and what he does.
Exactly. You become a fan of the guy, not the story. And I agree completely. I think Sin used to call them, back in his grumpier days, we'll call it, Sin used to call them Ken doll wrestlers, where they all had the perfect body, the perfect everything, and they were just so generic. You could plug and play, and it's like this. What are we gonna do? I don't know. Just make him a cowboy this week or something. Like, no. And it's a little victim of wrestling's a victim of its own success, because we've got so many names now to choose from. Where back in the day we had like 20 guys that you could really care about. Now there's like 100.
Right.
Wrestling maybe should narrow its focus a little bit. I don't want to see anybody lose a career. I don't want to see anybody talented not get their due. But holy shit, there's a lot of people to keep in mind that when a newcomer comes in, it feels like you're picking up Spider-Man comic number 386. Like, what is even going on? Who's this guy? I don't even know who this guy is anymore. And
well, like today was the 25th anniversary of The Rock breaking into the WWE.
Okay.
It took 25 years from The Rock to get there. But that's a storyline and that's a development. of one person, not being like from Rocky Maivia to and going along. That's not Rocky Maivia. All of a sudden, he's going to be Fred Jones, and he's going to be a disgruntled newspaper salesman. He's going to hit you with the newspaper. Oh no, he's the Rock again.
Yep.
You know, that's the part that loses people.
Exactly. And I think, you know, I just had a big talk about this with a bunch of other wrestlers, and it was the fact that The Rock and Stone Cold could sink the company at one point in their career if they had left. Now, during that time, there was nowhere to go. They weren't going to go to WCW because they weren't, and there was no real alternative except for ECW to go to. So there's nowhere for them to go and tank the company. But now you build your company on somebody like a Rock or a Stone Cold, and they decide to go to AEW. Guess what? All those people go over there now too. So at least in Vince's mind, it's not in his best interest to have anybody that big again. He wants everybody a solid B plus. Like they're all talented, they're all great, but he doesn't want an A plus guy anymore because it could fuck him over if that guy leaves.
He wants everybody plugged in to the
Exactly.
WWE thing. He can pull the plug out of you and put it into someone else.
Exactly. And good for Vince, bad for wrestling overall. I can understand why he does it because a businessman, you gotta make your money. But yeah, it's a little sad.
And the thing with AEW is they're more interactive and they know who to be interactive with. Like there's I follow this kid on TikTok. He's got Down syndrome. He's a huge wrestling fan, Baker Banta. And he was always getting WWE stuff and always wearing WWE shirts. And Cole Cabana reached out and sent him a bunch of AEW stuff. Just this last week, he was they had him backstage at AEW, and he met all of his heroes, and you got to see the videos. So now, AEW fans are being seen by this kid who has, I don't know, he's one of like the 6 people that Dunkin' Donuts follows. Like he has millions of followers on and now that's all being seen. So now you're seeing that Daniel Bryan is there. You're seeing that CM Punk is there when you might not have if you were a casual fan.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think AEW really is the current heart of wrestling because it comes from that place of love. They appreciate the fans. Like some of the best things that would happen the things that make me like John Cena aren't necessarily the matches he's done. And he's had some great matches. But you tell me this guy does 300 Make-A-Wishes a year, and you see that kid with the tears in his eye as John's handing him a belt or something like that. If we're going to peel that layer back and we're going to just pretend kayfabe doesn't exist, then yeah, show us that real heart of these people.
Yes.
And AEW does that so much better than WWE. They can. And it's why they have what they have right now. It's why they carved that niche.
Look at what AEW is, though. AEW is what didn't work for WWE because they all wanted that, and then they came over here.
Well, what they should have done, and I still think WWE should do this, is they do it with NXT. They make NXT its own little thing, and they bring up Karrion Kross. He's a Vegas guy. Karrion Kross, great Vegas wrestler, had all this potential, kicking ass in NXT, and what do? Let's bring him into the main cards and squash him. Right. It's like, what the? You had these kids who grew up watching him for a year and a half, 2 years, however long it took for him to get over in NXT. And then when he gets to WWE, it's like, yeah, you're with the big boys now, sucker. And it's like, you just squashed all these little kids. You killed their hero for
trained
no
by Sin,
reason.
by the way.
That what?
He was trained by Sin, I believe.
Partially, yeah. Yeah, he FSW out here. He was a Future Stars of Wrestling in Vegas guy. So, but the way they squash him, and I know I got a personal stake. He's a Vegas guy. Of course, I'm going to stick him for a Vegas guy, but still, he didn't deserve. If you squash somebody when you bring them in, you can't. Well, look at Sin. Go back and look at Kazarni. And even though he won that, he didn't get the push that
right.
A wasn't the greatest character for him, and he'll be the first one to admit that. But
I loved that
idea of
awesome. Character. If they did it right.
If they did it right. And that's the thing. They tried to make him a face. They tried to make him a baby face while talking gibberish and making the girls backstage uncomfortable. He's doing his talk. He's Sin at that point. And then they have him come out and expect him to be freaking a good guy. It's like, no, this guy you should be scared of when he comes to the ring.
What I would have liked to have seen is like they did those little carnival vignettes with them.
All those vignettes.
if they just showed him laughing.
Yep.
And you just show his face laughing, and then you pan out, and there's a guy behind him throwing dots at his back.
Oh.
Anything
and remember,
like that.
this was the era when Vince thought that Droz being able to puke could be a gimmick. Like, this was not Vince at his highest point of coming up with gimmicks. And if he had let Sin be a little more Sin and a little less Kazarni, and realized what they had there in a bad guy, he should have been a bad guy, at least at first, or something.
Or
and then,
put him in the same similar moniker or type of wrestler as Stone Cold, where he's not a good guy, but he's not a bad guy, but everyone loves him, but everyone hates him.
Chaotic neutral. You don't know what Sin's going to do when he comes. And that's more what he is now. Like Sin Bodhi coming out, you don't know. He might punch you, he might kiss you. You don't know. And I think the gimmick he's doing now, if that could have been the WWE gimmick, it'd be over like gold. I mean, he should, but I've always sung his praises. So
we got a question coming out of the chat room for you. And this is coming from Bobby D. He's a longtime listener. He on all the local shows, the indie shows, he's in there setting up the ring, but he's in his 60s. But he's still sitting there.
Nothing wrong with that.
Showing the young guys how to
numbers around here, but I've been doing this a few more zeros at the end than I like to admit.
But his question is, what was the weirdest match you've ever seen? You've ever witnessed?
Oh God, we did some great ones at Freak Show Wrestling. Probably the one that's the most fun to describe, because there was crazy stuff. Vegas has a very good punk rock kind of weird art scene too going on. So we would have sword swallowers and fire eaters and stuff like that. But I don't even remember who was all in it. But we had a match where Useless Aquaman showed up as a run-in and calls his people. And at one point, I think a fish came thrown out from the back and landed in the ring. So then he called out much stronger, and octopus tentacles then came out from underneath the ring and started grabbing wrestlers and pulling them underneath. And Sin and his wife, or girl, I can't remember if he's married to Karen or not. Karen's amazing too. But Sin and Karen made these tentacles that 20 feet long, looked like a freaking guar prop, and guys under the ring who were manipulating, and then they got pulled out. And Aquaman stands in the ring triumphant, and the crowd went nuts. It was one of the craziest, most fun things. But I got to say, probably the thing we'll never get on TV again, though, is we had a wrestler named Gaydolf Hitler.
Yes.
Gaydolf Hitler. The most beautiful concept you could possibly imagine. It was great. And this was during when Trump was president. So one way, I don't care I'm not getting political. You want to get political, you talk to Greg. He'll argue with you on Facebook any day of the week. But when whoever the president is going to be the butt of a joke. So we had Gaydolf Hitler up against Donald Trump trying to get the infinity dildo, which was a dildo painted gold with gems on it. Yeah. Gaydolf Hitler might have gotten it and given Trump the ending he might have deserved in the match. That's all we're going to say in that. But
did he grab him by the...
Yeah. No. We had Queen Kong come out.
Who?
And Queen Kong.
Okay.
Who was another Freak Show one. It's big, in the same vein as the bulkier women wrestler kind of things. And Trump grabbed her. And we kind of took some inspiration from that Japanese match. She then bared down with those Kegel muscles, and Trump ended up falling down and getting taken out by her immaculately strong pussy. That's the only way to describe that.
No. Hey, Bobby, you asked those questions, and this is what you get.
No, you got like Freak Show wrestling.
It was fun.
Oh, yeah. I wish I saw it.
It's funny as hell, but then when the match happens, it's real matches, too. I mean, like, the moves, we don't say... The wrestling shouldn't be sacrificed for the comedy, and the comedy shouldn't be sacrificed for the wrestling. You got to marry them together perfectly and get that proper mix of ingredients. Or instead of Oreo cookies, you get, the knockoff from the dollar store. They just don't taste right, even though they look exactly the same.
The Storios.
Yes, exactly.
Now, was it Freak Show Wrestling that had the hardcore Ronald McDonald?
The which one? No.
That's something else.
I don't
You
remember where
guys-
that one is from. And that's the thing. There's a lot of these smaller that are doing great concepts like that, or they'll have one match in the middle of something like that. And that's the evolution. I want to see somebody just take it to that other level. Make
And that,
a
like you
whole
mentioned
thing of
earlier-
promotions like that.
I forget if it was you or Greg who mentioned earlier, like on the East Coast, we had Chikara,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
unfortunately Chikara went through some stuff recently. But
Wait, you're saying a wrestling promotion might have had some internal politics that made it go wrong? I don't know anything about anything like that.
I mean, well, wrestling went through a phase where a lot of people got canceled, and unfortunately, Chikara got caught up in that somehow.
Gee, that's another thing I might know a little. You know, when you call yourself the Shocker and you do stand-up comedy, you might say some things that you hope don't show back up 10 years later.
Yeah.
Well,
But as a stand-up comedian, I feel like you get more of a pass because you're almost expected. Like I don't think Dave Chappelle should be going through all the stuff he's had to go through this past year because he's telling a joke. If you don't like his jokes, don't watch his specials.
Yes.
That sounds like a reasonable approach, huh? I wonder if anybody told Twitter they should be more reasonable.
It's like you get the freedom of
I mean,
speech unless it offends somebody.
Well, I heard this on a thing the other day, and you should never go out of your way to offend somebody unless you know exactly why you're doing it. And when I do comedy, there are times well, you know what? I'm going to show you. Let's do this.
He just disappeared.
I'm kind of scared.
You should be.
Kind of scared right now.
All right.
Did Greg get him?
So now Shocker's still here, but Shocker does the magic too. So if you remember in my Foolish special, I said I hate rope tricks. There's a rope trick called Professor Nightmare, which is why Sin was playing the part of Professor Nightmare in the thing. So once again, that is Sin Bodhi all the way across. We call him Professor Nightmare because it's funnier for the magic bit and he gets it.
Right.
And his boots are soft and cuddly.
And what's funny is Raven was like, I don't know who this new character is, but I love that Sin's doing this new. And then he said it wrong on his podcast, but Raven said beautiful things about it. So one way he's always going to be both. But I said I hate rope tricks, and there's a rope trick called Professor's Nightmare. And at one point, Sin took my tie, pulled it around my neck. So you could see, there's the other end. I'm trying to do it in the mirror here. You could see the tie going around my throat, and he pulled until I couldn't breathe. And then I had to take the rope and get it to go. Oh, where is it? Right? Cut the hair on the way up. There we go. All the way through the neck. You can even see the hair on the way there.
All right.
What's better live? Come see it live. But then when I do that, I tell people if Robin Williams did it that way, we'd have Mrs. Doubtfire too. Shocker. So you make jokes like that, you might make an enemy or two.
But with the same thing, though, Robin Williams would appreciate that joke.
Robin Williams would have made that joke. And that's my thing. And you know what? You should never go out of your way to offend somebody. That was the second half of this. You should never go out of your way to offend somebody unless you know why you're doing it. But you should also not let yourself be easily offended. That is a weakness. If you are always offended by things, you will never get the whatever you need to move forward. You're always like, oh no. So yeah.
It's not even people being easily offended. It's people going out of their way to be offended.
Out of the way to be offended for other people too.
Yes.
It's it's like we feel we got to protect everybody like they're a bag of kittens these days.
Well, if you think back to the Howard Stern movie, and one of the lines in there is, I hate him, but I listen to him. Why do you listen to him? Because I want to hear what he's going to say next.
Yeah.
And that's why people hang on that. Like, oh, you're an asshole. I don't like you, but you may say something about people with red hair, and I know somebody like that, and I'm going to get mad at you for that.
You know what? I used to make a joke about cancer, and people were like, what if people are going through cancer? My dad died of cancer. I went through cancer. Part of my healing process is making jokes about cancer. How do you
I'm the same way.
You make jokes about it. If
I had a brain tumor, and I laugh about it.
You're not scared of it. So part of it is me going, fuck you, cancer. I can make stupid jokes about you because you're not that serious to me.
Yeah. Well, like I had a brain tumor, and I often make the joke, well, at least they proved I have a brain. I get the MRI to prove it.
See? Now, if I had made that joke, if somebody makes that joke, my friend had a brain tumor, and I don't think it's like, then don't listen. Then don't hang out with the guy who made that joke. But other people are going to think that joke's fucking hilarious. and want to hear more.
If you made that joke to JP, he'd come back with something like, "Yeah, but it's bigger than his dick."
I'm surprised you admitted he had one. I mean, that seems like, yeah, I thought the jury was still out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
I've got one. Mine's like 7.5 inches. I keep it hanging on my wall. I mean, I gotta really install that thing. It's USB now. I watched Avatar, and I figured once you could get the USB thing, that made it so much easier.
No, mine's like a Tic Tac.
Especially is just
like a Tic Tac. Small, but it'll keep
it's
your
like
breath.
a Tic Tac.
That's why your mom's breath smells so good.
Wow. I was going to say, yours is like a Tic Tac that someone's had in their mouth for 20 minutes already.
It's like Twisted Mike and Ike.
But yeah, that's, I mean, with comedy, I think comedians 9 times out of 10 should get a pass.
Comedians should always get a pass, at least the first time. Now, and I'll go as far to say history should get a pass too, because if I made a joke 10 years ago because of the way the world, whatever was, that joke taken out of context now shouldn't be offensive in the same way. It's like, this guy made a joke 10 years ago, so he's not funny now. And it's like, then you're never letting anybody evolve. You're never letting anybody learn. You're never letting anybody grow. And that's not what America is.
No, and I agree with that, is that, but if I hear a joke being made, I might turn that special off, but I might tune into the next one.
That's fine. That's what I mean by giving a pass. You can turn the special off. You don't need to write to Netflix saying, don't even put this on your thing again. I can be like, man, I don't like this guy. There we go. And that's
not important enough for Netflix to listen to.
Well, you also got to look at it like this. If you tell 20 jokes and I'm upset with one of them, you still told 19 jokes that I liked.
Yep.
And people don't look at that. They get rid of, much like society nowadays, they get rid of the many for the few.
Well, everybody wants to be the hero. And this is something I've thought of it, because everybody thinks they're the rebellion. Nobody thinks they're the empire. But holy shit, do we have a lot of empire going on right now. And what they want is they want to save someone. By me being offended for the trans community on behalf of the trans community at Dave Chappelle, I am a hero. I am saving the trans community. And it's like, no, let them speak for their fucking self. And if Dave Chappelle, as long as we're talking about it, if you listen to the joke, he's not really even that disparaging. It's just trans is in the theme of the whole thing.
Right. And he was talking about one of his friends.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird. And I know this is the battle cry of everybody who's trying to get a pass, but one of my best friends was on Fool Us probably about 4 years ago. Dino Stats. She has now been on Fool Us as Dino Stats. She realized through whatever that she, all the things that are happening these days. And guess what? Still my friend. Still make the exact same jokes. And if somebody told me they wanted to beat her up because she was trans, you can damn well bet I would put a boot in that ass if somebody was trying to do it. But if you're telling me there's not any joke that has trans in it that's funny, that's bullshit. That's ridiculous. There's no way. Like I said, trans people are not retarded kittens. They know they're human beings. Some things will be funny. Some things will be hateful. Let's look at what people were trying to do with the message, not just look at the words and go, oh, well, he's not trans and he said the word, so he must hate them. And it's like,
let's look at it like this. They live in this world and they don't choose the life they live, but they live the life they live and they live it openly. They're some of the toughest motherfuckers around.
In Freak Show Wrestling, we had a trans wrestler who would come out from, and I hate to even bring it up as a thing because you know what? That is now a female wrestler. She is a female wrestler. She, as part of this whole gimmick and everything, while she was transitioning, she had it as part of her Nurse Ratchet gimmick, and it was kind of creepy and scary and stuff too. But, I made a joke that was in it that offended her. And guess what happened? She came backstage after the show and we had to talk about it. And we grew as people and we understood each other a little bit better. She didn't go to Sin and say, I want that motherfucker off the show, never hosting again, because he doesn't understand shit. She was mad because there was a misunderstanding like any other human being is going to be. And then we talked it out like civilized people. And now I know, okay, these jokes are off limit. I didn't realize they were offensive to you. I was taking the character in this. Perfect. I will never do that again. I understand completely. Everything's great.
Imagine if the whole world worked like that, where everybody just talked to each other.
Well, when Shocker runs for president, that's the next thing. It'll be America's Got Talent, then straight to the White House. Okay, I'll be the Rock's vice president first. He's going to get in there, and then I'll be the vice president. But
my guess was going to be that you're Donald Trump.
That what?
My guess was going to be that you might be Donald Trump under
I might be under the mask. No, I'm Seth Rogen under the mask. Can't you hear the voice? This is a wig. That's the voice. You know, I got to make Pineapple Express 3 soon.
Oh, please do. Please do.
No, but like you're saying that going back 10, 15 years before Chappelle had the breakdown, he was hailed comedic genius, comedian of the year.
Brave up until this point. So and that's what makes you think, did the bravery stop, or is someone taking something out of context now? And as I listen to Chappelle, I still hear the man speaking his truth all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And especially for a comedian, but anybody who's always, your own personal truth is going to be messy sometimes. It's going to have shit in your past you are embarrassed about, but if you never talk about it, how is anybody going to learn? And when Chappelle talks, he sounds like one of the most honest comedians, whether he is or not. I'm with him for the ride 90% of the time. Like,
yep.
Now, Mad Dog Matt Kelly in the chat asked, what was the match? And I think Greg touched on his earlier a little bit. But what was the match that got you into pro wrestling?
I'm gonna take your question. I'm gonna steer it a little bit, because World Class Championship Wrestling is what got me into it. Before WWE was on Saturday mornings, we had World Class, we had the Von Erichs, we had the Freebirds. We had what WWE wanted to be and didn't know about it yet on those Saturday morning WCCW ones. So, but the match that stuck out in my head that led to this, that it led to the thing on Penn and Teller, for God's sake, it was the one-man gang versus the Great Kabuki in WCCW. And I mean, Great Kabuki, Japanese wrestler, the first real green mist guy in modern history. And he was up against one-man gang. And before the match started, he threw what looked like spider webs at the one-man gang. And the one-man gang got trapped up. And you can look this match up. It's the only time I think they fought. So go to your NBC, go to your, whatever you got nowadays, and look it up. But he wrapped them up, and they're called throw coils. I had never seen them before in my life. I just went, oh my God, that guy just Spider-Man'd another wrestler. That is freaking amazing. And then Kabuki was great. One-man gang was bigger than life. It was just these two things, and it just exemplified what I loved in wrestling, because it had that theatrical component. So once I started doing magic, those throw coils, I found the guy who taught Fantasio magic uses those all the time. So I got to go know him in Vegas. So I added throw coils to my comedy act. And it's something.
Was it throw coils that you used in that first episode of Fool Us?
I use it in both. When I came, so I used to come out with a confetti cannon, and you can see me on Showtime at the Apollo, which, by the way, they don't bring the white guy on Showtime at the Apollo in the wrestling mask to make friends. So if you want to see the Shocker get booed off Showtime at the Apollo, that's when I knew I was a heel, and I played it as best I could. When you go on TV, you go on TV for different reasons. I'm just going to say that. But I did the confetti cannon there, and the confetti goes everywhere, and it makes a giant mess. You know who doesn't like a giant mess? Comedy club owners. So then I'm like, wow, what can I do? And it kind of, the throw coils, they come right back to you. They're all spider webs and all. So it kind of worked out perfect in the long run. So I come out as an introduction. Instead of having, I would throw coils, get that big spectacular. And then in this one, I used them as an offensive weapon.
I was at a metal show over the weekend that some of the performers could have used that idea.
Well, I grew up in the days of Iron Maiden, Twisted Sister, Alice Cooper on his second run, not old 70s Alice Cooper, who I love. I will listen to old Alice Cooper every day of the week, but I was when he was on that Resurgence tour. I was more of a 90s kid.
Yes.
And so Alice Cooper getting his head chopped off by the guillotine. Gwar. We have Techno Destructo at Freak Show Wrestling. Like, you
really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, Techno and Sin are friends. So Techno would be at just about every freak show in America.
Guar was part of
the
show. So that was for my first time ever seeing them.
Oh, Guar.
And funny thing, they were not the first person on their stage to pee on somebody.
Yeah, but theirs was probably the first one to fake pee on somebody.
Yes.
Okay.
If you look on TMZ last weekend, there was a girl, I don't even know the name of the band, that was like one of the smaller bands that was there. She said she had a pee. Guy in the audience yelled, "You can piss on me." They brought him up on stage.
And it became an OnlyFans show all of a sudden.
In front of, I think they said 140,000 people. It was at the Daytona Speedway. I mean, it was a huge
Brass Against,
festival.
I think the name of it was.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm looking at name all the guys on here. Iceman, Missing Link was another classic. But yeah, Guar in their heyday. I remember they went on the Jerry Springer show as examples of metal that scares the parents and stuff. So that's what I love, that theatrical on top of something that is already solid. Yeah. Like Iron Maiden, you don't need Eddie running out on stage for Iron Maiden to be good. Yeah. But holy shit, does it make the concert a lot better when you got a 20-foot animatronic monster running across the stage.
Guar is not the best band out there.
Not anymore. You got to listen. They went through a lot. The lead singer died probably about 5-8 years ago. Otis Rungus passed away, and they've never been the same. They're trying. They are trying their absolute best. But yeah, when Jimi Hendrix dies, you can't just find another guitar player.
Right. It's the story that it's like a wrestling match. It was the story they tell on stage.
Exactly. Guar, the Aquabats, even Weird Al Yankovic puts on these shows with callbacks. See, from comedy, there's things known as callbacks, which I know everybody knows what that is. But you watch those good comedians like Chappelle, and he'll end on something that he brought up at the beginning of the special. Like, there's a craft to doing this.
Yeah.
And that's what these bands that know what they're doing do too. The Aquabats will bring somebody in the first song that then comes back in the last song. And wrestling doesn't think about those callbacks all the time. And when they happen, the fans explode for them when they're done right. You got to do them right. They got to feel not forced. They got to feel not formulaic. But if you can bring that back up, like, holy shit, Paul Bearer is back and he's got the urn. How did he get the urn? The urn's been missing for a year. And now also, like, just, you know what I mean? Yeah. Bringing that stuff up, it just giving that theatrical quality and then weaving it through your entire story is always going to be better than worse.
I think Chappelle is really a master of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when you do stand-up, who did you look up to as a stand-up comedian?
So I do a lot of magic. I will be honest. You don't throw on a wrestling mask and tell dirty jokes if you're not willing to tread into the Carrot Top category of things. And growing up, for me, it was Amazing Jonathan. If you remember Amazing Jonathan, the #1 Comedy Central special in the 2000s. Penn and Teller, Harry Anderson, all the guys doing essentially stand-up comedy magic that was very, very funny, very edgy, and different than David Copperfield, the stuff we had seen before. So those were the guys I came up with. So like my first comedy set was Amazing Jonathan cover band. I've become friends with him since. In fact, pretty proud. So anybody who does know, Jonathan painted that for me.
Nice. Oh, that's cool.
From the so 18-year-old Greg is pretty proud of current Shocker because 18-year-old Greg remembers watching Amazing Jonathan going, man, if I could be him someday. And then Greg got to go to Thanksgiving dinner and he's giving him painted leather jacket. Like, yeah, that's a fucking mind blower right there. But those were my guys coming up, the comedians and Carrot Top and Sam Kinison and Gallagher, the guys who added, once again, the theatrical element to their comedy. So that's what I would say I try to do. It's when I do 15 minutes of comedy, you're getting a show. You're not getting, so the airline food wasn't really as good on the flight from Denver this time. I mean, you're getting over-the-top spectacle. You're getting magic effects that hopefully are amazing. And then jokes that make you go, oh my God, did he just say that? Like that's what the Shocker Theater show.
It's in your name.
Yeah, it's in the name. You kind of got to know what you're going into.
Now
No.
we're just about at an hour. Where, Shocker, and I know you got a few things to do tonight that are probably a little more important than this podcast.
Not more important, just different. I mean, Red Lobster with the mom, yes. You know what? I will always say that is the most important thing to me. So going to dinner with my mom when she comes to visit from Montana, absolutely, that is more important.
Red Lobster, though, come on.
They don't have them in Montana, or at least
they don't have. We're in Boston. They don't have them
in Olive Garden. So, as normal as those are for everybody else, those are treats for two ladies from Montana. So,
yeah,
everything I know about Montana, I've learned from Big Sky and the Cowboy Show there, Yellowstone.
That's all you need. That sums it all up pretty much.
Where can people find you, Shocker?
The best thing right now, go to the YouTube, go to Shocker Rants, Google the magic of pro wrestling, magic wrestling match, whatever you got to do to get to that Penn and Teller video. Because for my wrestling fans out there, that's going to be, the more you watch it, the more you share it, the more you like it. Throw it on Reddit, throw it on the WWE Twitter. If you loved that match and you want to see more of that in the real world, let them know about it. Because that's the way. I've already had meetings with producers and stuff, so we're working on a couple things out here. But a project only happens as soon as it happens. So if it never happened, there's a lot of projects that look good that never happen. So the more eyes we can get on this thing, the more AEWs, WWEs, indie promotions, maybe TNA is finally like, maybe we should try something else. Now let's just make Jeff Jarrett the champion again. No, try something new. I mean, who knows? But maybe some promotion is going to be like, yes, let's lean into the entertainment aspect of this. I'm the fucking flag bearer for that. I want to be the poster boy for entertainment in pro wrestling. I respect the hell out of the guys that do the moves better than me, the guys that can kick my own fucking ass, and I will always respect that. So let's meld that with the great entertainment we know is there too. So shockermagic.com. Find that, most important though, find that video, share it. Start your own Reddit thread. Say, we need more of this in the world. Make your own underground campaign. The more you share, the happier I am.
It is true. We do need more of it.
And the only way we get more is by throwing it in the... If Vince got 150 emails saying, have you seen this match? Eventually, somebody's going to show it to him. Right now, I am a bug on the windshield of the semi driving to Sheboygan with all the rings in the truck. Let's make it so they can't ignore it.
But Vince will sit on it for a year, then bring it back saying it's his.
That's fine. Then we get TNA or AEW to do it first and
get
off their asses. Like, I'm one of those, I am willing to have a conversation with anybody until you piss me off. So let's get it out there. Let's get some conversations. If we want an evolution to happen in wrestling, we have to make it happen. We have found they're not going to give it to us. We've been trusting for years, and they're not going to give it to us. So we got to start demanding it.
We have to be the evolution.
Me as the standard for demanding it, because I'm going to blow my own freaking horn. I'm the Shocker. It's a damn good, entertaining wrestling match. I don't think there's a better example of an entertaining wrestling match besides the Kenny Omega, the handful of those. All of those fall in the same category. Use those. Share them. Tell everybody that's what you want to see.
That's
absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Shocker. Thank you.
Anytime.
I know we switched the times and we switched the days on you a couple of times. My fault.
My fault as well.
Greg's a magician in Las Vegas. There was this whole COVID thing going on that, kind of reduced the amount of days he's been working. So we got a little more free time right now.
Before we get off, Greg said you were in the hot tub with 4 girls. How was that?
That's pretty good. All right, I was on Rock the Promo. Go back and watch those Rock the Promos. It was on the Rock's YouTube channel. It was comedians doing wrestling promos. AJ Kirsch, the guy who was my ring announcer for the Penn and Teller thing, ended up winning the whole thing. So he's got the Rock the Promo title that the Rock actually handed him. Nice. But we had a series of and there's some gold in there. And you can see some of my hot tub with the girls in my second round. And fuck Tommy Dreamer. I'm coming for you, Tommy Dreamer. I was better. You should have put me through, you son of a bitch.
We just had the challenge put there. The challenge been put down. The challenge has been put down. The Shocker wants Tommy Dreamer.
I want Tommy Dreamer. I will take you on in like Dance Dance Revolution, because that man could still kick my ass. But I will take you on, Tommy, anytime.
The innovator of violence versus the innovator of magic.
There we go.
All right.
Pull a rabbit out of somewhere on him. You can guarantee that.
Out of
Behind
his
his
trash
ear.
can full of weapons. All right.
Shocker. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. See you next Thursday with Sen.